A printing press. A printing press is a device for applying pressure to an ink surface resting upon a print medium, thereby transferring the ink. It marked a dramatic improvement on earlier printing methods in which the cloth, paper, or other medium was brushed or rubbed repeatedly to achieve the transfer of ink, and accelerated the process. Typically used for the text, the invention and global spread of the printing press was one of the most influential events in the second millennium. Johannes Gutenberg, a goldsmith by profession, developed during 1439 a printing system by adapting and existing technologies to printing purposes, as well as making inventions of his own. Printing in East Asia had been prevalent since the Tang Dynasty, and in Europe, woodblock printing based on existing screw presses was common by the 14th century. Gutenberg's most important innovation was the development of hand-molded metal printing matrices, thus producing a movable type-based printing press system. His newly devised hand mold made possible to the precise and rapid creation of metal movable type in large quantities. In Europe, the two inventions, the hand mold and the printing press, together drastically reduced the cost of printing books and other documents, particularly in short print runs. The printing press spread within several decades to over 100 cities in a dozen European countries. By 1500, printing presses in operation throughout Western Europe had been already produced more than 20 million volumes. In the 16th century, with the presses spreading further afield, their output rose tenfold to an estimated 150 to 200 million copies. The operation of a press became synonymous with the enterprise of printing and lent its name to a new medium of expression and communication, the press. Samuel Johnson English Dictionary. The rise of literacy among the general public, combined with the technical advances in the mechanics of printing and bookbinding, meant that for the first time, books, texts, maps, pamphlets, and newspapers were widely available for the general public at reasonable cost. Such an explosion of the printed word demanded a set pattern of grammar, definition, and spelling for those words. This could be achieved by means of authoritative dictionary of the English language. In 1746, a consortium of London's most successful printers, including Robert Dodsley and Thomas Longman, none could afford to undertake it alone, set out to satisfy and capitalize on this need by ever increasing reading and public writing. Johnson's dictionary was the first English standardized dictionary. Over the previous 150 years, more than 20 dictionaries had been published in England, the oldest of these being a Latin English Code Word Book by Sir Thomas Eliot published in 1538. The next to appear was the Richard Mulcaster, a headmaster in 1583. Mulcaster compiled what the term a general table of 8,000 words we commonly use. It were a thing very praiseworthy, if some will learn, would gather all words which we use in English into one dictionary.
First Library Congress. James Madison is credited with the idea of creating a congressional library, first making such a proposition in 1783. The Library of Congress was subsequently established April 24, 1800, when President John Adams signed an act of Congress providing for the transfer of the seat of government from Philadelphia to the new capital of city, Washington. Part of the legislation appropriated $5,000 for the purchase of such books as may be necessary for the use of Congress, and for fitting up a suitable apartment for containing them. Books were ordered from London, and the collection consisted of 740 books and 3 maps, which were housed in the new United States Capitol. President Thomas Jefferson played an important role in establishing the structure of the Library of Congress. On January 26, 1802, he signed a bill that allowed the President to appoint a Librarian of Congress and establishing a joint committee on the library to regulate and oversee it. The new law also extended borrowing privileges to the president and vice president. Carbon arc lamp. The carbon arc lamp, which consists of an arc between carbon electrodes in air, invented by Humphrey Davy in the first decade of the 1800s, was the first practical electric light. It was widely used starting in the 1870s for streets and large building lighting until it was superseded by the incandescent light in the early 20th century. It continued in use in more specialized applications where a high intensity point light source was needed, such as searchlights and movie projectors until after World War II. The carbon arc lamp is now obsolete for the most of these purposes, but it's still used as a source of high intensity ultraviolet light. The concept of carbon arc lighting was first demonstrated by Sir Humphrey Davy in the early 19th century, using charcoal sticks and a 2000 cell battery to create an arc across a 4-inch or 100 millimeter gap. He mounted his electrodes horizontally and noted that, because of the strong convection flow of air, the arc formed the shape of an arch. He coined them the term arch lamp, which was contracted to arc lamp when the devices came into common usage. The arc lamp provided one of the first commercial uses for electricity, a phenomenon previously confined to experiment, along with the telegraph and usage for entertainment.